Hello and welcome to episode 58 of the Crochet Circle podcast. I just did a little jig there. It might be because I'm on my third coffee. Just did a little coffee jig. Hello, how are you all doing? This episode is going to be called a Declutter, Destash and Simplify, because that is what I'm trying to do to my life. I'm getting all organised and getting loads of stuff out the door that we no longer use or need, and just generally trying to simplify our lives. And we're both on it, so we're going through the house sorting out all the things, including the stash palace. So I'll come on to that in a minute, but for this episode I have got Old Dog New Tricks, another yarn review for you with such lovely yarn. I also have Final Destination, some en routes. I have got, what else do I have? A little bit of Feeding the Habit and quick news beats and a Shador for you. And that feels like quite enough, frankly, doesn't it? So let's start with Old Dog New Tricks. This is very timely because I'm by no means not the only one. That kind of makes sense, you know what I mean. Doing a kind of declutter. I think lots of people are, and I'm wondering if it's in part because of pandemic situation and people have been sat in their houses looking at all the stuff they've got and just reevaluating what's actually required. What do you need? What don't you need? What is just extra stuff that doesn't really bring enough to the party to keep it in your house? And I've just been on Instagram and seen that Lisa, who's Lisa Raspberry Crochet, is doing a destash as well. So I know there are a few of you that are, and I'm about to do one too. So today's trick is just a kind of 3-level process of how to look at your stash. If you've got a lot, I'm holding my hand up because I have a lot of stash. And if you want to move stuff on, I was going to say get rid of it. That sounds a bit like mean, get it out the house. I don't mean that. What I mean is if you want to move it on elsewhere, then the kind of 3 ways that you can look at your stash and prioritise what goes where. So I think first of all, for me, and this is, entirely personal, but I have got like the older stash and the more commercial end of things that maybe I bought a few years ago when I was first starting out, that I'm not trying to recoup any value for, and therefore I'm just going to pass it straight on to a charity shop because somebody else will get use of that, or onto somebody that is going to make use of it directly. So for me that would be like some of my DK yarns, because I don't work that much in DK, and odd balls of wool that I've had from here, there and everywhere, and the more commercial end that I don't tend to do a lot of crochet or knitting with. And I had quite a lot of that was in kind of oddballs here and there. Normally what I would do is take that to a charity shop, but actually a friend that I saw at the weekend, her daughter crochets blankets for people that need blankets to keep warm throughout the winter. So I dropped all of that part of my stash off at her house yesterday. So that will go to her daughter Harry, and Harry will crochet up something for somebody that needs it. So I'm really chuffed about that. So that's kind of ticked that charity angle box. What I would say is when I dropped a load of crafting stuff off at, we have a St Luke's hospice locally, and I dropped a load of stuff off at their charity shop, and they were over the moon to receive crafting stuff. By and large, I know that my local charity shops really enjoy getting crafting things, and they're happy to take partial projects as well. So that's worth checking with your charity shop. If you've got a partial project that you're not going to get all the way through, the way that they want to receive it is with the pattern or instructions, with the rest of the materials that are required, and preferably with any of the equipment that you've got as well. So if you're able to do that and you've got a partial project and you don't want the wool, rather than frogging it, somebody else might buy it, the charity will get the benefit, and somebody else may continue on with that project. They might frog it as well, but at least then A, if they're going to continue, they're going to do it, and B, you don't have to frog it. Frogging isn't that much fun. So that's kind of level 1 of the destash, declutter of your yarn. Level 2, I think, is like more commercial yarns, where you've maybe got a larger quantity of them, so you might have 2 or 3 balls, or a jumper's quantity, or like a bigger amount that somebody can go at with a project. And if it's at the commercial level, so I'm talking about things like maybe Rowan, Erica Knight, Debbie Bliss, all the bigger companies that people are aware of, eBay is a great place to be able to sell that stuff on if you want to be able to get some value back for it. I have bought loads and loads of yarn on eBay. I've had some proper bargains on eBay as well. And what that means is that people are more likely to know that brand, to have already used it, and to know what it is that they're dealing with. So they've got the confidence to go and buy it on a platform like eBay. So that's a great place to move that part of your stash along and get some money back. Let's face it, we've spent quite a bit of money on our stashes, and some things you don't just want to pass on to charity, some things you actually want to get some cash back on. So that's number 2. And like I say, I've bought loads of Rowan, loads of Erica Knight stuff on eBay. Previously had some proper bargains on eBay. And it can be a great ground. If you're looking to pick up on somebody else's stash, it can be a great way of finding bits and pieces that you already know and love. What I would say is a really good tip with that one is, and this is a great eBay tip across the board, I'm a bit of a keyboard wizard when it comes to eBay. I love getting a bargain. Is if you find somebody who's got stash that you really like, watch that item, but also go in, and there's a button on the right hand side, and it will click you through to a link that says see sellers other items, and if you click onto there, then you can see if they've got more stash available, and then it saves you sifting through all of eBay. You can actually just see if they've got more stuff that you like and want to get hold of. Top eBay tip. So that's kind of number 2 dealt with. And then number 3 is really your high-end stuff that you 100% don't want to just give away. You want to derive some value out of it. So maybe like your hand-dyed skein of yarns, your silk mohairs, your pure British breed stuff that you really love, but you just, for whatever reason, you're not going to use it and it needs a new home. For that sort of stuff, I've got 2 kind of options for you. The first one is to do what I'm going to do, which is, and what Lisa's doing, which is sell it on Instagram stories. So if you pre-warn people that that's what you're going to do, then you can do it in one day, and then people know to just keep an eye on your stories in that one day, and then you can delete it. As stuff is sold, you can just delete it out and then it's gone. It doesn't have to sit on your grid. You don't have to put loads of effort into it. It's just done. Logistically, you then have to keep a tab on who's coming back to you and saying that they want what. So it's not the easiest way to sell it, but it's still probably the quickest. Sorry, I've stopped because the little grey squirrel is out there. He's not so little because he's been eating all my nuts. He's a proper little rat bag. Basically a bushy-tailed rat. Grr. Right, I'll continue. The second option for your kind of higher end skeins is to actually find some of the groups on Facebook which are there for reselling yarn. So I'm in one which is called Yarn Snobs, Hand-Dyed Yarns, FSOT, which is for sale or transfer. And that's on Facebook. So that is predominantly for UK people. But what I would suggest is if you live elsewhere, try and find a group that is relatable to your country. Otherwise, you're going to be paying quite a lot of money for postage and packaging, especially given that the prices have just risen to get stuff from the UK into America and from America into the UK. The postage costs are now horrendous. So try and find something that's local to you, and then you can spend more money on yarn and less money on postage and packaging. You will also find bits and pieces on those Facebook groups, new to you dyers, people you have never come across before. And again, if you're selling, you can get some decent value back out of your skeins because the people that are in that groups really understand the value of hand-dyed and the value of those precious skeins that we've paid quite a bit of money for. So if you're looking for maximum value coming back out from your stash, Instagram stories and some of the groups on Facebook are, I think, your best bet. For Instagram stories, of course, you can also put things up there like I'm going to do books as well, and I'm also going to do some of my material stash. So it's probably an easier place for doing an entire crafting destash rather than just your yarn. But if you're doing what I'm doing and you're looking at destashing and decluttering, then I would suggest sorting into those 3 piles. It makes it really easy, and then you can always go back through those 3 piles and see if you need to move some over or not. And also what it means is if you don't sell something in like the high end, you could demote it to the eBay end, and then if you don't sell something in the eBay end, you could demote it into the charity shop end. That sounds like I'm really trying to give charity shops a rum deal, and I'm not at all, but we spent a lot of money on this stash, and I personally want to get as much money back out of it as I can. That's what I'm after. So, yeah, bits are charity that can go that way. Other bits I really want to try and get some cash back on them. So I'm actually going to do a destash this Sunday, which is the 4th of October. I'm starting at 12 o'clock on Instagram stories for the Crochet Circle podcast. That's where I'll put it all. So if you're interested, I will have fabric, I will have crafting books, and I will have some yarn and some wool. I don't have loads of yarn and wool that I'm giving up because, you know, they're still my babies, but there are some bits that I'm willing to part with. But quite a lot of fabric that is going out the door. So yeah, come and have a look if you want to see what is going to be available. And then if you've got loads, what I can do is work out an overall postage rate and then send it off to you if there's anything that you want. Next up, I have a yarn review for you. Guess who it's with? John Arvin Textiles. You didn't see that coming, did you? Sonia got in touch and said, do you fancy having a quick look at our new Alpaca Supreme? So I've used this yarn before, but what they've actually done is updated it with some new colours. So it had a fairly limited palette previously, and you may recognise 3 of them from a cowl that I did in their latest annual, the annual number 2. I made a cowl out of their 3 grey colours, and what they've added to it, they also had a white, which is beautiful, but they've added 4 more colours to it. So there's a denim steely blue, a light sage green, quite a heathered tone, gorgeous vintage pink, and a quite a vintagey as well, purple as well, like very, not a purple, but almost quite a pinky lavender purple is the best way that I can describe it. So it has 8 colours in the entire Alpaca Supreme, and I was dealing with the 4-ply, but there is a little note that says that they have got plans to release a heavy lace weight, so 600 metres per 100 grams in the next few months, which will be amazing. So I'm looking forward to that because I don't mind a heavy lace weight, as we've discovered. So long as the hook is big enough, I can live with it. So the Alpaca Supreme is 40% British alpaca, 40% organic Falklands merino, and 20% A1 mulberry. I'm really struggling with words today. 20% A1 mulberry silk. And I just had a little look at what the different bits within that meant. So the alpaca that they've used is UK grown, and it is superfine alpaca. And I just was interested last night to see what superfine alpaca meant. And I looked through a few different websites, and what I discovered is that generally alpaca fibre is graded into 5 or 6 different grades, and that depends on softness. So the real high end is called royal alpaca or baby alpaca, or like an amalgamation of the two. And a baby alpaca is called a cria, so you might also see it referred to as cria alpaca. Now here's the rub. Baby alpaca doesn't necessarily come from a baby alpaca. It can come from a more fully grown alpaca, and it's to do with the softness of the alpaca itself. So there is very little actual royal alpaca out there, which is taken as like the grade 1, 2, depending on which system you're looking at. The next one down from that is the superfine alpaca, which is what John and Juliet have put into this yarn, and it is so soft. It is absolutely beautiful. If you've already worked with Knit by Numbers, then you know how gloriously soft their merino is. It's organic Falklands merino. It's a long-standing yarn that they have done, and it's really beautiful and soft to work with, and it crochets up beautifully as well. And then the A1 mulberry silk. See, silk? That would be a very Scottish way of pronouncing silk. Silk. The A1 mulberry silk. Sorry. The A1 mulberry silk. silk is one of two types. So you get Tussa silk or you get mulberry silk. It tends to be for the yarn industry. Mulberry has got a higher shine to it, so it's got a higher luster, and the A1 refers to the fact that it's really very pure, so it doesn't have any neps and little bits coming off of the cocoon as part of the silk itself. You're just getting a really pure, lovely fine strand of silk. So again, it's like way up there. It's the best of the best that you can get. That's what they've put into this yarn. So when I say it's luxurious and beautiful and soft, it really is. It's gorgeous. So I've actually got it. I don't know. I'll try and take a photo for the show notes, but I've popped it into my John Arbon Textiles bag. You get these with a lot of your orders, so I have many of them. And I've actually decorated it. I embroidered, because it's got like a banner with John Arbon Textiles written on it, and some flowers kind of around it. I embroidered the flowers to just give it a little bit of oomph. Right, so let's show you what the actual project looks like. So I'm using Morganite, which is the dusky rose pink colour, and it's absolutely beautiful. I said to Sonia, just send me whatever colour you want to send me, and I will make up a sample for them. So that's the other thing I'm doing this for, is this is a sample for them of my Positivity spiral cowl. And I was so pleased when I opened up the package and I saw that she sent me this dusky rose pink. It's got a real vintage quality to it. It's so soft, and I mean soft in terms of the colour beyond just the way the yarn feels, and it's just so beautiful and soft. And with the silk that's in there as well, you get this heathering effect to it, and it's just gorgeous. I think the way that they've done it is that the alpaca has been dyed, possibly with or without the merino in there at the same time, and then the silk is in its natural colour. That's what it looks like to me, which means that you've got this lovely blend of colours, and it's not one saturated colour that's coming through, so it's got a real delicacy about it. And it means that what you're getting from that silk is the sheen coming off it, and it's lovely, and it's so ridiculously soft. So if you are somebody who doesn't like a lot of wool, because you feel the prickle, even if that's merino, this might be a good option for you, because 60% of it is non-wool. So you've got 40% alpaca, 20% silk. Alpaca is also known for its hypoallergenic qualities. And what I would say is, even if you feel the prickle a little bit with alpaca, because do you remember last month I talked about the difference between woolen spun and worsted spun, and in worsted spun all of the fibres are combed into the same direction. That's what they do at the John Arbon mill. It's a worsted spun mill, and what that means when they're combing is that the shorter fibres that you would get in alpaca are actually combed out, and what you're left with are the longer fibres. And with the longer fibres, you don't tend to get the prickle because you don't have as many fibres poking out. So if you are somebody that has issues with prickle, this delicate little beauty might be just the thing for you. I'll put some close-ups into the show notes, and I will hold it up here too, but you might just be able to see that you can see some flyaway fibres in there, but they are like soft. They're not like jagging up on end. They're soft and beautiful. You know, they're not going to rasp your hands. It's not that kind of a yarn, but it's really gorgeous to work with. I keep on stopping every now and then while I'm working on this and just like, put it up to my cheek and pet it and love it, because it's just so soft. I started this at the weekend, and I don't know how many times I was with friends, and I don't know how many times I was commenting on how nice this yarn was. And it's lightweight feeling, but it's also lovely and warm. That's the beauty of alpaca as well, is you get a real warmth from it. It's actually quite hard wearing as well, which kind of goes against the grain of what you would think for something that is so soft. With that level of softness, you don't necessarily think about durability, but actually alpaca is really quite a durable fibre. It can be used as a sock yarn, so that's one to think about as well. But I just love it. The colour in particular is just absolutely wonderful. So this comes in at £20 skein, and a skein is sport weight at the moment until they've also got the heavy lace weight, and that is 333 metres per 100 grams. So they call it a sport weight, which is more American terminology, and they also call it a heavy 4-ply, more for the UK scene, but I think the UK is more and more used to hearing sport weight as a term and understanding what that means. So this is a true sport weight at 333 metres per 100 grams, and it just is beautiful. It has drape and it's gorgeous. I really love it. So what else did I want to tell you about it? I think that this would be really suitable for shawls where you want that drape, or if you've got a more standard yarn and you want to add just an edging of something really gorgeous, you could use this to edge off your shawl and get drape from that without having to use it for an entire shawl if you're kind of being a bit budget savvy. I also think it would make amazing mittens because it would feel lovely on your hands. Same with a hat, and I would really love to see it as a pair of bed socks. I think it would be lovely and warm. I mean, the silk is quite hard wearing and alpaca is quite hard wearing, so you could potentially use it as normal socks, but the merino is going to run through quite quickly, so maybe better as a bed sock option. And I also have this kind of vision of, I would love it in this anthracite, this dark grey. I would love a little cropped cardigan, not quite like a bolero, something quite squared off. Would love to make myself a little cardigan in that anthracite colour, dark grey. I just think it would be stunning, and the drape that you would get from that would be incredible. I like when I talk about drape, what I mean from that is that it hangs really well and it's almost got a fluidity to it, so it's not something that just like hangs and stays there. So as I move, it doesn't kind of not move around with my body. It's got that swish factor, and that's one of the things that you get from alpaca, is it's got that drape and fluidity to it. So what I always do when I do a yarn review is pull out the 5 words that are immediately brought to mind when I think about the yarn that I'm dealing with. And so my 5 for Alpaca Supreme were luxe, as in luxurious, shiny, delicate, super soft and drapey, and I think that just sums it up perfectly. This is like a high-end yarn that you would just want for really special snuggly things, that you want to kind of burrow down into because it's just beautiful. It crochets up nicely, it doesn't split. I'm using a 3.75mm hook with this, and I've got a really nice fabric out of that. I'd already made one of these in their fawn colour, which is no longer which is why I'm reading this one. And it's just a real joy to work with. There's no point at which it's snagging on the hook. I'm not getting fibres getting caught up on the hook, and like I say, it's not splitting. It just, and because it's got that silk in there, just the movement of crocheting around the hook is really easy, and like it's effortless motion. You know, some yarns are like hard work on and off your hook, and I always tend to use metal hooks because I find that I get enough friction where I need friction and glide where I need glide, and this just glides off my hook without creating a loose tension, which is really lovely. So I see more Alpaca Supreme in my future. Maybe when I've sold all of my destash, I can restash with some Alpaca Supreme. So on to Final Destinations. My first one, which I had just started last month and was finished in no time at all, to be honest, is my Encanto knot wrap by Claudia Carpenter, who is Crochet Luna. So Claudia's pattern is actually for a big long wrap that uses 2 100-gram skeins of 4-ply. I wanted a cowl because I know what I'm like. I love a cowl, and it's really practical for me in the office. I'm often bending over, and a shawl can just fall off me, so that's why I did a cowl instead. And I have barely taken this off since I finished it. And what I would say is, because my wardrobe is very blue and very navy and very teal, this goes with most of my wardrobe because it is a very dark teal turquoise, like to the end of that dark stretch that you get in a magpie. That's what this colour is, that really kind of dark petrol colour. And I love it. It's so warm, and again, it's alpaca. I'm really on a little alpaca kick at the moment. I'm loving it. It's a great pattern. It would be really easy to fiddle with it if you wanted to, like I did, because it's just worked in a big length, and you're going you're working vertically down the rows, so it's easy to change out your stitch pattern. It would be easy to use it as an odds and ends pattern where you can just finish up with one colour and start in with another, and yeah, you could easily have your wrap and add buttons to it and do it as a double cowl as well. It's a really versatile pattern, and I love it. Like I say, I've barely taken it off, and every now and then when I'm really cold, I use it as a little snood as well, and look like the woman from the Scottish Widows advert. Yeah, it's a really lovely versatile piece for me, and works very well within my wardrobe. So the alpaca that I was using for that is from Brennell Alpacas, Breeders of Quality, and this is alpaca that I actually bought in a yarn shop in Auckland, New Zealand, and it is, like, for a 100% alpaca, it's the nicest alpaca I've ever worked with. It's super soft, it's got a really lovely twist on it, it's got a very even twist on it, and it is just warm as anything. I really enjoyed it, and I've got very little left. I've got about 40 grams left, so I'm going to have to save this and do something special with it. I could have kept on crocheting on this cowl and used up all of my yarn. I've only got about 110 grams in this, but I didn't want it to get any longer, and the height of it is just right for me, so I just didn't want to add more to it. It's like the perfect size cowl for me, for being out in the office, so I will find another use for this little nugget of alpaca. Yeah. So my next design, finished object, Final Destination, is actually one of my first designs I had inside Crochet this month. I had 2. So the first one is an office tidy set that I had done in Erica Knight's Gossipium Cotton, and it's a set of 5 things, which makes use of intarsia crochet and tapestry crochet. So there is a coaster. It's called the jewel set because it's got a lozenge shape in the middle of most of the designs. So the coaster uses 3 colours. In fact, all of the things pretty much use 3 colours, and you can pick and choose whatever colours you want. And then the pen pot is done using tapestry crochet, and it fits nicely over an old tin. These were I think tomato tins I had washed out and then used, and it's been sized for that, so that holds your pens, could be your crochet hooks, could be all of your crafting stuff. So coaster for your mug, pot for your crafting bits and pieces. There is also again with the lozenge shape, a desk tidy for putting all of your bits and pieces into at the end of the day. And this just needs a bit of a starch to put it back together because it's been off to the post and back for the photo shoot. And so that can sit on your office, and then all of your bits and pieces can go in there when you've finished crafting for the day. And then there's also a set of 3 little yarn bowls or dishes. So there's one that's kind of sized for it could be like your pencil sharpener or your rubber or stitch markers. And then there's another one that is sized for little nuggets of yarn. And then there's a bigger one which will actually hold an entire cake of yarn in it. And within the pattern there is an option to add a little button and a hole, or to just crochet all the way around. And what that means is that you can use it as a yarn bowl and pop your thread through, your wool through, and then secure it down with the button. And then if you need to move it out of the bowl, you can still do so because you can unbutton it, or you can just do it as a straight dish. So they were all in as part of the same design as well, and I used 3 different colours for those ones. So there's like an off-white, a bluey grey colour, and another kind of dusky pink, which is my favourite pink. I'm really not a massive pink fan, it's not my go-to colour at all, but I really love this kind of vintage dusky rose pink colour. That's the one that I would go to, that or like a really vibrant fuchsia pink sometimes. Most of all, I don't go to pink, but when you mix it with some other colours, it really just is beautiful. I like the soft tones of this cotton from the Erica Knight range. It's really nice to work with. So it's a DK cotton as well. So all of those are in Inside Crochet. And then which is available at the moment actually, that's the one that's just come out in the last week or so. So that's still live and you can get it online. I will add links into the show notes because they do digital copies. So if you can't get hold of it where you are, you can get a digital copy really easily. Coffee slap. And then the other pattern that I had in Inside Crochet is called the Igam wrap, which I made using 2 skeins of Nellie and Eve yarn, which is dyed. It's naturally dyed by a lovely lady called Helen. Helen lives on the side of a Welsh mountain and she goes foraging locally for the plants to dye the yarns with, and she's got like a mountain spring that she uses for dyeing with. It's just, she has this beautiful setup, and I first came across Helen just over 18 months ago I think, because we were stand buddies at Wonderwool Wales. She was across the way from me, and obviously you get chatting to your stand buddies, and she's lovely. She's got a lovely Instagram account if you fancy following her and finding out a bit more about the process of naturally dyed yarns. Her stuff is really beautiful. A lot of naturally dyed yarns tend to be semi-solids and they're quite muted, and I love them for that. They're quite saddened, which is I really like. One of the things that Helen started doing, which is quite special for naturally dyed yarns, is that she's getting some variegated colours. So if you really like the effect of naturally dyed but you're hankering for some variegated, have a look at what Helen is doing at Nellie and Eve, because she's mastered how she's doing that to great effect as well. It's really beautiful. So the Igam wrap is it's basically done in a big, I was going to say triangle, it's not, it's a rectangle. It's done in a big rectangle, but it's got button bands on both sides, so the button holes go round the corner of the wrap. And what that means is that you can wear it in a poncho style, you can wear it in a wrap style just over your shoulders, you can put a twist in it and rebutton it and wear it as a twisted wrap, or you can wear it as a big chunky cowl around your neck as well. So it's one design, but it can actually be worn 4 different ways really easily. You just unbutton and rebutton to get it to the poncho style, and the other 3 styles are done on the wrap, making it into a big circle. I really enjoyed doing this. Let me just take it off of Claude. This wrap, it's called Igam because, well, Helen's place is on the side of a mountain in Wales, and it's got a zigzag stitch on it, which is just done using front post, and it's a really delicate zigzag. It's not in your face, so it's just like a nice bit of surface relief. And zigzag in Welsh is Igam Ogam, so this one is zig, so this is the Igam wrap, and then I'm most likely going to do a knitted version which will be Ogam. So crochet Igam, zig, knitted Ogam, zag. I like bringing words from different dialects into play in my crochet, as long as there's a connection there. I don't want to just, reappropriate something. But if there's a connection there, like the dyer actually being in Wales, then I want to kind of make sure that we're using words that should be being used. So hopefully you can see it, and I'll add some photos into the show notes, but like I say, it's a really delicate zigzag that's on there. The colourway that I used is called Juniper, and this is a mix of Blueface Leicester, BFL, and Massam. So it's British wool, spun in Britain, dyed in Britain, dyed in Wales, and it's like an off blue grey. It's more blue than grey, but it definitely has grey tones to it, and it's just lovely. And I know that this is a hard wearing yarn because I did the homebody sweater out of the same blend. I dyed that up myself in kind of denim blue colours, and it's a hard wearing wool blend. It's really lovely, and it's warm as well. Now unfortunately this wasn't sized for me. I had to make it in a kind of small to medium size. I think my niece is eyeing this up, and I think she's not getting it. I think it's going to stay with me because I can wear it as a cowl. I don't want to stretch it out. So I actually wore it as a cowl this weekend. It was lovely. So yeah, that one is also in the magazine. Felt a bit weird having two designs in there. Rosina had 2 designs in as well. We were like the double bubble twins. Yeah, very pleased with it. I think it's a lovely design, and it goes from a size small up to a 5XL. The 4XL and 5XL are the same number of stitches. It's just the way it worked out, because you don't need to add that much more to your body width, and it adds more length, but it's sized for all sorts of different sizes, and yeah, that's all in the magazine too. And then I have one final destination, and that is to say that after I'd finished my wrap, the Encanto knot wrap from Claudia, I finished that I think 2 days after I'd recorded the last podcast. So then I just hit a wall. I had no inspiration to craft at all. Didn't pick up a hook, didn't pick up needles, didn't pick up any thread, just wasn't sewing, didn't do anything. And that is really unlike me. Usually I do something every single day. I craft every day. It's part of my being. I can't help but craft. I love it. It's like my downtime. I listen to audiobooks, I listen to podcasts, and I craft. That's what I do at night. Didn't do any. And I knew I needed to kickstart it because it's really not much chalk doing a crochet podcast and having no crochet to show and no other things to show off. So I needed a means of kickstarting my mojo. And I thought, crochet's not that crochet's not cutting it for me, knitting's not cutting it for me, nothing's inspiring me to get going other than the turn to autumnal colours. So I came at it from a completely different approach, went into my stash and pulled out the most autumnal yarn that I had, which is Indian Giant Squirrel by River Knits. And it basically is autumn in a yarn. It has green, it has red, it has orange, it has mustard, it's got a little bit of blue, it's got a little bit of grey, and it's just amazing. Like, this is one of those gobsmacking skein of yarns. When you see it, you can't believe that somebody's managed to dye those colours up. It's just incredible. And I caked this up probably about a year ago because I was going to use it for something and then I didn't. So it sat there all caked up, ready to go, and I walked into my stash palace and there it was, screeching, I'm the one you're looking for, I am the bringer backer of your mojo. And that's exactly what it did. So I just quickly started up a new pair of knitted socks, just something really simple, because clearly if I've lost my crafting mojo, like, there's something clicking over in my brain that's occupying it. So I didn't want anything difficult, and the socks that I really love are the ones that are just plain. And also there is so much going on with this yarn, like it's a busy yarn because of all of those colours. There is no point in me adding a pattern to this as well, because it will just be lost. There's no point. So I just kept it simple and it brought my crafting mojo back. So I do have 2 socks, one on the blocker and one here to show you. So I finished them off. And as always, I have not yet put them on my feet because I like to show you pristine socks on rather than ones that I have worn in for a couple of days. Yes, I wear my knitted socks for 2 days before I wash them. And I put them in the washing machine. And I do the same with my crocheted socks. I have no shame. But I don't want to wash my lovely woolly socks after every one use. So I wear them twice and then they get washed. I know some people wear them for longer. I don't. Just 2. They just get 2 days worth of wear and then I put them to the washing machine pile. So moving on to en routes. Obviously there's the positivity spiral, but you've seen that so many times. I'm not going to go into detail with that, and you saw it during the yarn review. My next one's a little bit cheaty because I haven't actually started it, but I've printed off the pattern and I've selected all of my yarn, and I am going to do the Colourpop sweater by Jomi Conradi. She's based out in South Africa and she's doing some really amazing crochet designs at the moment, and she's also size inclusive, most definitely, for her latest one, the Colourpop. And I'm really excited to start. It's DK, so I'm sure it will be really quick to crochet up, but I don't think I'm going to get this done quickly because there's so much else going on. So it might be a little bit of a while. But what I want to do is show you the yarns that I'm going to use and introduce the concept of the actual jumper itself. So if I've read the pattern right, what you actually do is you start at one sleeve and you're working vertically as it would fit onto your body. You start at one sleeve, you come all the way up to your chest, and then you go out to the other sleeve and you do a front panel and you do a back panel. Now what that means is if you have got yarn in your stash, there are some colours that you don't necessarily want right up at your face, then you could put them out to the sleeve and have the colour that you do want at your face coming into that centre panel, if that makes sense. So let me show you how that's going to look, and I will pop photos of this in the notes. But I have got 4 skeins of DK yarn. 2 of them are in a deep, rich red, orange, dark brown variegated palette, and 2 of them are in a more orangey mustardy palette. So I think I would struggle personally to wear the reddish one right up at my face. I think it will just wash me out. I think the mustard does a little bit as well, but I love mustard so much I care a lot less about that. But I tend not to wear reds, and I'm not sure this is coming across on video just as red as it actually is. So this is not a colourway that I would normally wear at my face. However, because of the construction of the jumper, I can wear it out and along my arms and coming up towards my chest. So it's actually going to work into, I think, a bit of a fade. And because I have got 2 skeins of each, I can put 2 skeins away for the back piece and use 2 skeins for the front piece, and then I should know if I'm going to run out of yarn with these 4, and if I am, then I can just introduce another colour as part of my fade. So I've just added into there a much lighter mustardy colour, and I could essentially build up a fade in my jumper because of the way that this jumper is constructed. And I think it's going to be absolutely amazing and lovely and warm. And then the pattern also calls for cuffs, which I'm like, for those of you listening, I am now towering 5 bits of yarn basically off my chest. And I'm thinking for my cuffs I might just use a really simple saturated mustard colour, because I think it goes with all of the other colours. So I've got a bit of a Colourpop fade sweater going on basically. I think that's what I'm going to make. And it may be just a 3-colour sweater, or if I need to I will introduce a 4th colour, which will essentially be right the way down my middle, the middle of my torso. And I'm going to make this quite a cropped sweater because that's what I like and that's what I wear. Even today I have a little cropped knitted jumper on and I just layer it up. So that is what this is going to be. Now these 4 skeins I'm currently holding up, the cakes, actually came from the Facebook Marketplace group that I was talking about earlier. Got them for a bit of a bargain price actually. The dyer was Yarn and Art, and I got all 4 skeins posted for £38, which really is a bargain. And they are 280 metres per 100 grams, so I've got decent yardage on that as well, decent meterage, and I just fell in love with the colours. Again, autumnal, like just, I thought given that I'd done so well getting my mojo back, then I should continue with the autumnal colours that I'm really loving at the moment. So you will see some progress on this in next month's podcast. I really don't know how much because there's a lot going on, but I would like to think I will have started it. If you haven't had a look at the Colourpop sweater, then do go and have a look up. I've already put links to it in the show notes. Joey does really amazing designs, so check her out if you don't already. She's on Instagram as My Square Hat, and I made a shawl of hers again in linen stitch probably about a couple of years ago now, and I really enjoyed it. She does good pattern writing. So as I've just said, it's in linen stitch, and I did make a point after I had finished my Esja sweater that I would never do another like torso linen stitch jumper again, as Stasia reminded me in the global hookup. I think this is different because it's going to be on the vertical and it's also cropped, so I'm going to give it a try and see how it works, and I'll report back. And if I, from what I can see from the photos of the ones that the test crocheters did, it seems to hold up. It's also in a DK yarn, so it's got a bit more structure to it, and if it's cropped then I'm not going to have the same weight imbalance going on with my jumper. I just felt with my Esja that it just pulled down and down and again down, and it felt quite holey and a bit too open. Yeah, so that's why I was anti linen stitch, but that is with it running horizontally rather than vertically. So I'll feed back and let you know. The other thing I would say is the cuffs, the waistband and the collar in the pattern are all meant to be done in crocheted rib, and I really don't enjoy it. I do not enjoy crocheted rib. It just takes so long. So I'm going to cheat and knit mine instead. So which means I'll be adding them all after. And you know me, I can't help it. I have to fiddle with the pattern. That's my major fiddle for this pattern. I'm gonna knit parts of it because life is too short, and I know what I'm like. The minute I start that jumper, I'm going to want to wear it. So I'm gonna knit those bits at the end. And as ever, I will put details on what I've done and the finagling that I've done into my project notes. So that is en route to be. Might get started this weekend. Who knows? We'll see. So we're on to feeding the habit. I have yarn. I have not spent a penny on yarn. This is the other thing that you can do when you're destashing. Normally when I have when Wool Gathering Sandbatch is meeting once a fortnight, a couple of times throughout the year we will have a yarn swap. Usually do it in January and then maybe again in kind of June, July time. And obviously we can't do that. So I was fortunate enough to have been away this weekend with a couple of friends. We had accommodation booked for Yarndale in Skipton. Obviously Yarndale didn't go ahead. It did go ahead as a virtual entity, which was really lovely, and I was part of as a vendor. But we couldn't get the money back on our accommodation, so we took the call and we met up together. All very sensibly. If we went into town, we wore masks. We didn't go into town that much. We brought our own food. We tried to not impact on the local population. We were very sensible when we went away for the weekend. But what we did was took some of the stash that we didn't want anymore, and we did a stash swap as part of our weekend. So my friend Sam got some stuff from me, and I got some stuff from her. So let me show you what I got. So I got 3 skeins back from the stash swap. The first one is a French dyer, and it's called Laine Amoureuse. And the base is called Athens, and it's 100% merino. It's a 4-ply, so it's 400 meters per 100 grams. And the colourway is Une cerise dans mon gin tonic. Gin tonic? Gin tonic. I have this really horrendous habit of, when I'm trying to pronounce something in French, just softening the wrong things. I once was in a French airport and honestly asked for a coffee and a muffin instead of a muffin. How offensive. It wasn't intended. My brain just tries to think the way that somebody else would pronounce a word and then pronounce it that way. It was just awful. So gin tonic, not gin tonic. Ridiculous woman. So that is quite a deep saturated corally red colour. It's lovely. It's most likely going to be socks or the edging for a shawl. I'm holding it up to my face to make my point about kind of going into deeper red tones. It just really washes me out. I have like broken veins and red bits on my cheek because I was a really silly girl and went skiing a number of years ago and didn't wear any face cream and gave myself 2nd-degree burns. So I have very pink skin tones and I have quite blush red cheeks, very very pink red cheeks really, and I'm also very pale. So adding these brighter red tones right up my skin just doesn't really do anything for me. So it'll probably be socks, could also be part of a jumper at the bottom half. But really lovely colour. I love the colour. It's just not something that I would wear right up at my skin. That was skein number 1. Skein number 2 is John Arbon Textiles, and it's their Exmoor Zwartblaze in a double knit. So it's a lovely mid-grey colour. I actually think it's called the shade is light. And it is 70% Zwartblaze and 30% Zwartblaze, 70% Exmoor Blueface, and this is one of their standard yarns that they have. And then the third skein that I got is, I think it's a self-striping yarn. There is no label. Sam couldn't remember what it was. She's fairly sure it was something that was given to her, but it is in, it's a DK, and I think it is going to self-stripe up in red, green, like a petrol blue, a purple, almost going into a brownie tone, and the greens are like a forest green and a bright grass green. Sounds revolting, but I think when this is actually knitted up, it's going to be gorgeous. And what I'm thinking about doing is making Matthew a pair of proper boot socks, and doing helical knitting with a solid colour, so maybe something black or a dark grey. So what you'll get then is every other row would be the dark grey, and then you would get a mixture of these different colours coming up and through in the next row in. So it could be quite interesting looking. And when I say boot socks for Matthew, what I mean is that he, all of his training is now delivered on Zoom, and it is going to be for the foreseeable future, which means that he is stood up delivering training pretty much all day long, and his feet get cold and he wants something squishy, so some double knit socks might be just the ticket for him to keep him warm and to give him a bit more padding while he's stood up all day. So 3 skeins of incoming yarn that I don't feel that I had to pay for. I mean, obviously the yarn that I swapped with Sam I had paid for, but that's not the point. It doesn't feel like I paid for them. It feels like I got 3 skeins of yarn for free, and some left my stash that I no longer wanted. So I am very happy. These are going to hit the freezer. Not that I don't trust Sam, more that nothing is allowed to come into my stash palace unless it has been through the freezer for 2 weeks. So these will pop off to the freezer, and then they can go and join all my other little yarn babies. So on to quick news beats. The next global hookup, the October ones, are going to be on Saturday the 17th of October at 8 PM and Sunday the 18th of October at 9 AM, and we're still in British summertime at that point, so make sure you're going by BST, not GMT. I've added a password into there. It's not that I've added it, it's that Zoom now requires a password. So it's in the show notes and it's in the Mighty Networks already listed, but the password is WOOL in capitals, so WOOL. That's the password that you will need to get in. Next thing, this is so exciting, is that a group of awesome crocheters and me are actually taking part in a panel discussion for Vogue Knitting Live, which is going to be on between the 8th of October and the 11th of October, and we're doing a panel discussion on the 8th, and the title is Crochet in the UK. It's been pulled together by Claudia, Crochet Luna Podcast. It was her idea. She put the idea forward to Vogue. She's pulled together the panel, and I just, like, hats off to her. She's done a fab job, and really nice that she wants to push what's happening in the UK crochet scene. As I get more details, I will add them into the show notes, and I will also pop them up onto Instagram. But it would be amazing if you could join us and come and watch the panel discussion. I think it's great that Vogue Knitting Live wants to represent crochet as well, so the more of us are watching and interacting with it, the better. So if I tag them on Instagram and you see me tagging them, I'd love it if you're hitting the like button and commenting and responding, so we're making a big thing out of crochet and showing them that there's a real audience there for it. And that's how we're going to make a difference effectively, is by continually pushing and flying the flag for crochet. The more we do it, the more there will be for us, and we won't be marginalised and sidelined. And thank you, Claudia. Like, she didn't have to do this at all, especially with a UK, spin on it, given she's sat in San Diego. So yeah, look forward to that. There's so much good crochet stuff coming your way. Like, I can't tell you. I know about so many things that are going to happen, and I can't tell you what they are, but there is So much stuff coming to push crochet forward. It's very exciting times. My next point is that somebody got in touch to say that they were having problems accessing the files in Evernote. If anybody else has had problems, can you please let me know? And equally, if you've been able to get into Evernote, can you please let me know? I don't know what's going awry there. I don't know if it's something that I'm doing. I don't know if I need to pay for premium to give you access. But I don't want to set up a system that then isn't working for you. So if you can just give me a heads up on if you've had any problems or if it's worked for you, that would be really helpful. Thank you. Thank you to everybody that has been supporting me on Patreon. I cannot tell you how much of a difference it makes to me and my life to be able to know that some of the financial pressure is off to be able to deliver this podcast. It really makes a difference. So thank you very much. Also thank you to everybody that just likes, comments, shares the podcast. It's amazing and it spreads the word and it gets it out there and it's just really helpful. Had a little look at the audio numbers and we're edging so close to 100,000 downloads on audio alone, which just blows my little tiny mind. I can't believe that so many of you tune in every month for me in my little studio, just recording me spraffing away about crochet and what I love. So thank you for your support. Thank you for your financial support, for your social media support, for everything. It really means a lot. What was my final one? Oh yeah, you've probably got the gist that there's a lot going on in our household at the moment. So if I'm not around too much, especially in the next month, don't take it personally. If I'm not responding to things that quickly, it's not personal. There's just a lot going on and I'll be able to explain more in the next podcast and kind of share what's actually happening. All is well, nothing horrible, all good stuff. I'm just not at a point where I can share it with you yet because I don't want to jinx it. If I'm not around much, that's why. And also if the next podcast might be a little bit of a conglomerate of things, I'm going to try and record things over the coming weeks. So the November podcast might actually just be a little random bunch of stuff, still with a little bit of me hosting it obviously, but it might be bits and pieces that I've recorded. So if you're watching it, you might see me in different outfits and in different locations. That's just symptomatic of what's happening with our lives at the moment. So there will still be a podcast, do not worry. It just might be it's a piecemeal podcast, but hopefully the content level will still be high for you, hopefully. And my final one is J'adore, and I have a totally different podcast for you this time, but it's still completely relatable, I think. It's audio and it's called Rock and Roll Farming. It's hosted by a gentleman called Will Evans. He has a cattle and arable and egg farm over in Wales. He's in North Wales, I think, near Wrexham. And he has got 100 and odd, way over 100 different episodes where he, on a weekly basis, apart from a kind of hiatus last year, has actually week in, week out delivered an interview with other farmers or agrics within the industry, scientists, specialists in their field. I know, it's a bit random, but actually, if like me you have a true interest in the provenance of the things that you buy and eat and use, then actually this is a really interesting podcast because it gets you right into the heart of the farming community and what they're up against and how they deal with things, and a lot of environmental matters in and around the farming community as well, including a lot of shepherds and a lot of people that are diversifying to keep their farms alive. It's really interesting. It's particularly from a UK perspective. One of the things that is utterly wonderful about it, and I'm sure this is one of the things a lot of you would love, is that because he interviews people from all over the UK the dialects that you can hear in interviews are just amazing. So it might be people from the northeast with a bit of a Newcastle lilt, or it might be people from Cumbria with a real Cumbrian lilt, or from down south with a Wiltshire lilt, and it really shows off the breadth of amazing dialects that we've got throughout the UK, and it's interesting. I'm not saying they would all be of interest to you, but because he's got well over 100 different podcasts, I'm sure you can pick and choose the bits that are actually of interest to you. I came across it because Maria, who's a friend, she's also somebody whose products I stock. She's got Dodgson Wood, so she's a farmer, but she's also diversified. She makes the wool wash that I sell, she makes the shampoo bars that I sell. She's also a shepherd and she sells wool, and she has river knits doing some hand dyeing for her on some of her yarn. So there's a really nice context there for something that's sheepy and therefore something that's crochet. She was mentioned in one of the interviews which was done by Herdy Shepherd, which I'm sure some of you will have heard of Herdy Shepherd because he has a massive following. So there's actually a double episode interview with James Raybanks, who is Herdy Shepherd. Really interesting. He's had an interesting life, and it just gives you a totally different aspect. So if you've ever thought that there's not much about farmers and they're not that interesting, I implore you to listen to some of the interviews, because some of the work that they do is groundbreaking. The environmental work that they do is incredible, and the way that many of them care for their flocks, to their herds, it comes across in the interview. So if you want to know a little bit more about the food that you eat, about the processes behind wool that is used for the industry that we're all involved in, then go and have a look at Rock and Roll Farming. I've gone right back to the beginning, and I'm listening to them all in order, and it's a wealth of knowledge about agriculture throughout the UK. I'm loving it. It's really in depth, which I really like. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but if you just want to dip your toe in, then I would say definitely listen to the two with James Raybanks, Herdy Shepherd, because he's a really interesting character. Right, and that is it from me. I'm going to be back on the 6th of November in some form. Who knows, it might be a hologram. But I will be about on the 6th of November ready to deliver another podcast to you. Until then, I am waving. Have a lovely month. I will see you on the socials. And enjoy November. Not November, October. Honestly. I need to go. My brain is fuzzed. Enjoy October. Bye bye. Hello and welcome to Sepisode. What is this episode? Sepisode 58. And beyond that, I also have another yarn review for you. I have got some so just to add to that then, I am going to be doing a destash. That was like moustache. I'm going to be doing a destash on this coming Sunday, which is 4th of September, October. And then they can go join all my other little yarn babies. Full Moira Rose there for you. We're still in British summertime at that point. Just check, because you know what you're like. You're an idiot when it comes to this.